What if your toughest moments at work, like experiencing conflict or being criticized or dealing with challenging personalities, became opportunities to lead confidently? I want to share with you a transformative approach that will help you to do exactly that. Lead with confidence and control. Now, most leadership models teach us what to do, manage priorities, how to run meetings, how to give feedback. But the real turning point for leaders is learning how to lead ourselves. When you learn to lead yourself first, clarity, presence, and influence naturally flow. What if you could lead with more clarity, even under pressure? What if you could stay steady when emotions run high? What if you could respond calmly rather than react? Or maybe address conflict with confidence instead of avoiding it? What if you could access your best leadership instincts in real time? That's what the BOLD model I developed offers. Learning the inner skills that help you to lead from your best self. So, why does this even matter? Well, because our internal state drives how we show up as leaders. When we feel overwhelmed or stressed or doubtful, it shows up in our decisions. It shows up in how we communicate and actually how we present ourselves. I'm going to share with you a simple framework to help you recognize what happens inside of you when you're triggered and actually what to do with that. The framework I use is developed from a method called the Internal Family Systems, or IFS, and it was developed by Dick Schwartz. It's an evidence-based model that views our internal system as a team made up of different parts, each with its own role, its own emotion, its own motivations. But beneath them is our true self. And when we lead from a place of self, we are calm, confident, grounded, and wise. That's the place of executive presence, where we lead with clarity instead of reactivity. Another way to think of your inner world is as a boardroom. You've got a whole table full of strong voices. There might be a planner, a critic, a doubter, maybe a pleaser, maybe the fixer, and maybe sometimes one part dominates the conversation. When stress hits, one of these parts often grabs the microphone and takes over. What we also know is that these parts don't just live in our head. They show up. They show up in our meetings. They show up during conflict. They show up when we're giving feedback or making decisions or receiving criticism. This is where leaders often get stuck, not because of skill gaps, but because of their internal reactions. And these can be viewed as roadblocks because they can keep us from being our best selves. So take a moment and see which one of these five roadblocks shows up most often for you. And maybe there's others that are not even here. We've got the inner critic and imposter syndrome, people pleasing and boundary struggles, maybe conflict avoidance, and maybe being indirect, maybe overthinking or indecision, or maybe fear of failure and rejection. There could be many others that you may face that you feel get in your way from being the best you can be as a leader. So there's four steps we're going to be practicing throughout this program that are truly transformative. And this will be serve as your roadmap to self-leadership. It's called the BOLD model. And when we use the BOLD model, it helps us to understand our inner selves. We become aware, we become more open to the parts that are showing up, we figure out how to lead from self, and we dialogue with courage. In future modules, we'll go through each of these areas and apply it to ourselves and then put it into practice. What will you gain? This work gives emotional clarity and strong presence. It makes leadership easier, more honest, and more sustainable. When you learn to lead your internal world with clarity, show up stronger everywhere else. Leadership mastery begins with mastering your inner system. The more calmly you lead inside, the more powerfully you lead on the outside.